Good morning, students. Today's class is in continuation with the previous class. Today, we will continue with the remaining portion of lesson number 8, the first pub, written by Ranjit. So, without wasting any time further, let's read the story. One afternoon, Meena's mother-in-law to be was invited to tea. As usual, my mother had gone all out with elaborate preparations. There were dainty eggs and cucumber sandwiches in a decorative garnish of grated cabbage and carrots. There was cake, probably dark devil's food cake, and a magnificent bowl of rasmalai, all loaded up and decked up in white lace. The tea trolley squatted resplendently in the dining room, glittering with china and silver, ready to be rolled out in style. As usual, tea would be served in the veranda, where the guest was being entertained. Excusing herself, my mother went to the dining room to make sure everything was perfect and to wheel out the trolley. But horror of horrors, what was that familiar and suspicious headless brown shape right next to the trolley? And what were those slurping, slobbering noises emanating from underneath the tablecloth draped over it? So one day, when author's sister's mother-in-law to be was invited, the author's mother prepared everything extravagantly. There were many dishes, including dainty egg and cucumber sandwiches and cake, and a magnificent bowl of rasmalai. And all these things were decorated in a very pretty way. They were all decked up in white lace. The tea trolley was glittering with china and silver, and it was ready to be rolled out in style. And as always, the tea was to be served in the veranda where the guest was being entertained, and the author's mother excused herself to see that everything was perfect, but she made a horrific discovery. And what was that horrific discovery? The rasmalai had been ruined by Bambi. Bambi, Bambi, bad dog, naughty girl, get your face out of there. At once, Ranjit, Mala, get your wretched dog out of here. The mother was very angry and she shouted at the dog. She even called out the author and his sister to take the dog out of there. But it was too late because the rasmalai was already ruined. And Bambi looked up guiltily, smacking her lips. She was licking her lips. We gazed in horror at the wreckage. The rasmalai was quite a mess. So everyone was looking in horror or gazing in horror at the spoiled rasmalai, and it was quite a mess. But luckily, Bambi had not got to work on the cake or sandwiches. But they were feeling lucky since Bambi could not ruin cake or sandwiches. If you tidy up the dishes a bit, no one need to know. Smoothen it out and put some more silver paper on top, maybe in a smaller dish. Now there was a suggestion to tidy the dish and to put more silver paper and transfer the rasmalai into a smaller dish, but it was not a suggestion that was welcome, and anyway wouldn't have worked because Bambi had already gone into the veranda to greet the guests or to greet the visitor and let her know how delicious the rasmalai was. Even the guests came to know that she has eaten the rasmalai Luckily, the lady was very fond of dogs herself and spoiled her own dog worse than I did Bambi. And Bambi was pardoned instantly. So, this lady or the guest who came that day, she was also very fond of dogs and she has also spoiled her dog even more than the author did Bambi. And that's why Bambi was instantly excused or pardoned. Where we slipped up big time was by feeding Bambi at the table. She was, after all, our very first dog, and none of us, my parents included, could resist those pleading eyes gazing up at us like some half starved waif as we ate. Surely it could do no harm to give her a tidbit now and then, especially of the more unpalatable parts of your meal. Now the author knows that where was their biggest mistake. Where did they do their biggest mistake? Their biggest mistake was when they used to feed Bambi at the dining table because it was because she was their very first dog and none of them could resist those pleading eyes, and they even didn't know how to raise a dog, and they used to think that it could do no harm to give her tiny pieces of food now every now and then. How could you eat with those eyes like limpid pools? Mala used to declare melodramatically. Gazing at you like that and traveling from your plate to your hand to your mouth. In the old days, people used to put aside some of the food in their plates for birds and cows and surely dogs before they ate. So this was really no different. Sometimes, of course, you were in a hurry, late for college or school, and what better and quicker way to dispose of a rubbery toast? So here the author's sister said that we cannot eat anything by avoiding those eyes which are gazing at us. She also says that in the older times people used to put aside some of the food in their plates for birds and cows and surely dogs before they ate. So this was nothing different. They actually justified by saying that sometimes, of course, when you are in hurry, late for college or school, what might be a better way or a quicker way to dispose of a rubbery toast than to give it to a dog. And so nearly all her life, Bambi would turn up at the dining table during meal times and sit and drool and whine and drool and whine and drool and whine as we tried to eat. So Bambi made it a habit to turn up at the dining table during their meal times, and she used to sit and drool and whine and drool and whine and drool and whine as they tried to eat. Turn by turn, she would go from person to person looking terribly martyred if we refused to give her anything. So, turn by turn, she used to go from one person to other person and looking terribly martyred if any one of them refused to give her any food item. It would become 10 times worse when we had guests. So this condition would become 10 times worse when they had guests. Knowing full well that she was not likely to get anything from the family, she would sit down next to the guest, look pathetically at him or her as if she had been starved for the last fortnight, and start her routine. So whenever guests used to come to their house, Bambi, being fully aware that she wasn't likely to get anything from the family members, she would just sit next to the guest and looking pathetically at the guest as if she has been starved for the last fortnight. And then she used to start her routine of drooling and whining. Oi, oi, oi. If this didn't work, she'd place a paw on the guest's thigh and continue whining. Bambi, stop it. Behave yourself. Put your paw down at once. Do we behave like this when you have your food? And then she'd produce her final weapon. Drooling copiously, she'd put her dribbling chin on the poor guest's lap and look up sorrowfully, laying down a large swathe of silvery drool on the guest's clothes. "Ui, you know, these cruel people don't give me anything to eat. I'm so hungry. Ui." So, students, whenever Bambi was scolded by the family members, she would then produce her final weapon. And what was that final weapon? Of drooling copiously. She would put her dribbling chin on the poor guest's lap and she would look up to them sorrowfully, and she used to pretend as if she has not eaten anything from a long time and the family members do not give her anything to eat. "Bambi, get your mug out of there. You've drooled all over Auntie's lovely sari. Disgusting dog. Really so sorry. Here's a napkin, or would you like a towel? Damn dog. Here, let me wipe it for you." Bambi drooled all over the guest's lovely sari, and the author and his sister had to apologize to the guest. And if there were more than one guest, she would of course try her luck with each of them. And students, if there were more guests, she would not stop at one guest or with one guest. She would try her luck with all the guests, and it was a mistake on the author's part, which was not repeated with the other two dogs that they had, and that has actually taught them a golden rule. And what was that golden rule? No feeding at the table ever.
So, students, I hope you really enjoyed reading this interesting story, and you will also take good care of your dogs. We will meet in our next class. Till then, take care, stay home, stay safe.